Why would having a dedicated bag gun for SHTF scenarios be a good idea? Well, bag guns, which are typically going to be carbine-style firearms that fit compactly within a backpack, bring a lot of benefits along with them. And for SHTF, I think maintaining a gray man status and a level of concealability when it comes to your weapons could be the difference of life or death. And these are the things that we have to consider. Now, bag guns tend to be a little bit more complicated than your typical general purpose rifle or even just your handgun. And as you know, I'm an advocate for anybody only owning one gun, that gun being a handgun, because I like the idea of having the concealability and always having that firearm on you. But what the bag gun does is it gives you a rifle-capable carbine within a small package that allows it to be concealed within a backpack that doesn't raise awareness from those around you. And that's why it can be such a good idea for SHTF style scenarios. We often talk about why walking around with an AR-15 right at the beginning of SHTF might be a bad idea or even a death sentence. And this avoids that problem in total for you. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about different bag selections, different platforms that work well for bag guns. We're going to talk about my specifically designed bag gun I have right here, and we'll go over that and I'll give you some ideas about why I put together what I did in order to achieve the smaller footprint as well as having similarities in the sense of logistics for an actual SHTF event. And we'll just go ahead and talk about some other philosophies of use of a bag gun. And if you're preparing for SHTF type scenarios and you're worried about having concealability and maintaining a gray man status, then hit the subscribe button below, because that's basically the goal of the bag gun. We're trying to maintain gray man while having the ability to fight fire with fire, aka rifle-capable rounds, or at least a carbine that can put rounds further down range on target more easily than your handgun while maintaining your gray man status. So, first and foremost, why have a bag gun? Well, you can honestly have it with you anywhere you are and still maintain your gray man status based on what it is you're carrying the bag gun in. Backpacks of different kinds give you different capabilities when it comes to maintaining that status, but purpose-built packs are a little bit better at housing a firearm versus just your average everyday school backpack, which might not do a great job, but definitely conceals what it is you're up to a lot better. So there's choices there, but at the end of the day, the bag gun allows you to have something that's much more capable in the sense of self-defense without having to sacrifice your gray man status, okay? Another thing that's great about a bag gun is that it's easy to transport. No matter how you have your rifle slung around you and no matter how lightweight you make your build, having one that fits in a backpack and wearing it in a backpack is a lot easier to walk around with. Now, that doesn't mean it's as accessible, because that's definitely not the case. And I will tell you from experience, it takes quite a bit of time to get a gun out of a bag and up and running and on target compared to having something that's just slung around your shoulders, right? But you also get the idea of concealability there that you don't have with the gun that's slung around you. So these are things you have to consider. It's all a compromise, but you still have this gun with you where otherwise you may not, and you don't have to paint a target on your back by having it there with you either, right? And of course, as I've said before, the rifle capability factor is huge. Now, of course, some people might choose to do a pistol caliber carbine or something like that just based on similarities of their handgun and their carbine taking the same magazines and just having one type of ammo or whatever it is, and that's all good and fine. But for me, if I'm gonna take the route of a compact carbine style pistol or rifle, however you want to put it together, right? Well, I'm going to use a rifle caliber cartridge because it allows me to have a lot more potential capability over any handgun cartridge, which in the same footprint, which basically your AR-9s and your AR-15s are almost the same footprint either way. Well, might as well go rifle caliber in my opinion. So let's talk about different bags and just get some different ideas about what you can and can't do, the limitations of those types of bags. We'll talk about this build in particular to make sure you understand my philosophy as to what I wanted my bag gun to be, especially when it came to interchangeability of parts and ammo and everything else with other people that might be within my group. And we'll talk about some of the necessary changes you might have to make to something like a standard AR-15 platform in order to make it more bag gun compatible. Okay, before we get started, I need to mention that this project was made possible by Wilson Combat, Savior Equipment, and Sylvan Arms. They all got together and wanted to support this video idea, so they sent me some products in order to make this possible, and I wanted to thank them and give you guys a full, transparent disclosure there. Yes, some of these things were sent to me, but nobody paid me for any reviews or anything like that. So, first off, What about a utility bag versus something more gray man, right? This is the Save Your Equipment Coffin TGB Covert. And we'll go over that really quickly because this thing has a lot of features and it has a lot of awesome stuff that allows you to carry a firearm in a bag a lot easier and a lot more efficiently. But we also have to discuss the idea of just your generalized backpack, right? This is way more gray man. This is my wife's backpack, and I definitely did try to use this in some shooting footage, but what I will say is that it's not purpose built. So it didn't fit the MCX, which is what I was using in this bag, very well, and it did actually break. Now you can see right here where the zipper broke off, right? Well, that's because this bag is just not made to deal with that type of abuse. I was trying to be very fast. I was trying to get the gun out. The gun was very tight inside of the bag because there wasn't quite enough room. So it was kind of at its limits. And then I was also shooting in negative temperatures. So because of that, everything just started to fail, which is one bad thing about a non-purpose built bag. But what does this bring to the table? This is way more gray man, in my opinion, than something like this bag right here. Now, this isn't necessarily super suspicious, but it's much more suspicious, in my opinion, than this would be. So understand that bag guns can go in lots of different bags, but you're making compromises based on whatever bag you choose. If you want to go ultimately gray man, this isn't a terrible idea, but just be aware that you're not going to be able to get the gun out quickly, you're not going to be able to access all of your other gear you have with you very efficiently, and it's just not going to hold the weight of the gun very well compared to something that's way more purpose-built. And I'll just show you here really quickly. In this standard bag right here, we actually, and this is just like a regular size backpack. If you want to think of like a school backpack, that this is the size that would be. And in here right now, I've got my MCX, right? So this fits in here, and this is a great bag gun. Now this is where the conversation can talk about a couple things related to caliber selection as well as your platform, right? This is a 300 blackout, and a 300 blackout might be a good idea for a bag gun build because you can get a much shorter barrel and still have the full or a lot of the capability of that 300 blackout cartridge compared to something like the 5.56. You could say the same about something like 7.62 by 39. And the other thing to keep in mind is that something like this particular platform, the MCX, or other piston-driven platforms like AK variants and things like of that nature allow you to have a smaller footprint because they don't require the buffer tube in order to operate. So you can get a much smaller brace or stock depending on what it is that you're running, if it's a pistol or a rifle, and then that folds up really nicely and doesn't impede the operating system of the firearm. So I can still shoot this, no problem at all, while it's in this folded position, and then I can unfold it and really have that additional point of contact and do what it is I need to do. So keep that in mind when you're building out some type of bag gun, because these other caliber options like 300 blackout give you shorter barrel lengths that are still very capable. These other platforms that are piston driven like AKs or MCXs or things like that have these folding stocks or folding braces like this one has right here, which allow for, it's very cold in here. It's a little bit harder to do that than usual, but this allows for a much smaller footprint in general without making modifications like you would need to make to most of your AR-15 style platforms in order to get a folding stock or a folding brace situation. So I wanted to mention that, and the MCX is a great bag gun. But let's talk about my dedicated bag gun build that's specifically for SHTF scenarios, because that's what we're talking about here, right? Now this Save Your Equipment bag has a ton of compartments and features, and it's really nice for keeping everything organized and ready to go. There's MOLLE webbing everywhere. It's just everything you would want in the sense of making a kit like this more efficient for a bag gun. Now this particular model is a sling bag rather than a backpack, which I would probably prefer a backpack, but it does have this extra stabilizing strap right here, which does kind of help make it stay on your back a little bit better. But either way, it holds the weight well and it keeps everything very evenly distributed, which is a big deal when it comes to these purpose-built bags versus something like your standard school-style backpack, right? We'll go ahead and open it up here. And you'll see right here that we have the dedicated bag gun for SHTF. And we'll go over the features and my thought process here in just a second. But really quick, there's this padded section over here. We can pop that off. And then there's a whole nother MOLLE webbing wall back here that allows you to have things like, this is my suppressor ready to go right here, a couple magazine pouches. We've got some 10-round magazines, which we'll talk about here in a second, and a slim first aid kit. So that way I kind of have a little bit of everything in this bag ready to rock in case I need to access it. And of course you can change all of this for whatever it is your needs are, but I do like that it has that capability. So here's the bag gun. Let's go ahead and open it up. And one of the reasons why I was just talking about 10-round magazines is because in a bag gun, you can actually keep your 10-round magazine loaded and ready to go. And the way this one's set up right now is basically cruiser style, or at least that's my understanding of it, where I have a fully loaded magazine ready to go inside of the receiver and then nothing in the chamber. So I would just have to rack the charging handle to get one round in the chamber and then be ready to rock from there. So now we know we're safe, we're good to go. And this is the SHTF bag gun I put together. Here we have the Wilson Combat Upper. This is a 11.3-inch barrel, a 1-in-8 twist. It's stainless steel 416R, and it has their armor tough finish, which is this FDE you see right here in the upper receiver, is also applied to the barrel. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but it's a really nice finish, and it does a great job of protecting from corrosion and stuff like that. And like I said, Wilson Combat sent this upper over to the channel, so I appreciate that. And of course, we have their ambidextrous charging handle right here, as well as one of their bolt carrier groups. So definitely a very nice upper. I'm very happy with it. I haven't had any malfunctions at all, and it runs suppressed really well. Like I said, I have an ASR device here on the end in order to house a suppressor when I need to get a little more quiet, I guess. Now, the lower is an Aero Precision M4E1. I really like those lowers. I think they work really well. I like that they're forged, but they still have things like the integral trigger guard and stuff like that. So definitely a big fan of these lowers lately. And then, of course, we have the Sylvan Arms folding stock adapter, which I do like. It has a QD sling mount right here, which is pretty cool. If I can get that to come out, there we go. So you have a QD sling mount there and on the bottom. And it's obviously a folding adapter, which is very important for being able to have such a compact firearm in this bag. And what's cool is that with this folding stock adapter, I actually have a 16-inch upper that I put on this lower, and I was able to fit it in this bag. This is a 34-inch bag, so it's the larger of the bags, but it does fit a 16-inch AR-15 as long as you have a folding stock adapter on it in the bag. So you can have full rifle capability if you need it, no problem at all. Now, we have an SBA3 SB tactical brace, right? Because I don't know, it's not December whatever day yet, and I don't really care what the ATF's trying to do, but this is the brace that I have on this AR pistol as of right now, okay? And then we have a Holosun SCS MOS on an offset mount here with the Primary Arms SLX 3X Micro Prism. Now, I like this optic setup quite a bit. It's very lightweight. I have 1X red dot capability right here, right? Which you really can't go wrong with, and I'm not sure if I can get that on camera or not, but you know, we'll just mess around with it here for a second. And then with the Primary Arms SLX 3X Micro Prism, I have a nice illuminated reticle with a bullet drop compensator in there. And if the batteries go out on the SLX 3X Micro or on the SCS MOS from Holosun, this still has an etched reticle in it because it's a prism optic. So I'll still have a way to aim even if all the electronics go down. So no, I don't have backup iron sights on this build right now, and I don't necessarily feel like I need them because I have two sighting systems, so that's already good redundancy. This one never requires batteries, so that's kind of also an interesting level of redundancy. And then if this one's batteries dies, and this dies at the same time, we still have an etched reticle, so we can still aim and get on target. The other thing I want to let you know about is that this is actually a 300 blackout 7.62x39 ACSS reticle. The reason is that I found it lines up with the shorter barrel length velocities that this produces in 5.56 NATO than the actual 5.56 reticle did. Now, why is this chambered in 5.56 NATO? Well, the reason is because this is the SHTF bag gun, not just one that I can have with me wherever I'm at or in case I feel like things are gonna get spicy or whatever, right? It's because for SHTF, I still wanted the logistics that include being able to swap magazines and have similarity of parts and ammo and everything else with my group or with people I might encounter during that type of situation. And 5.56 really still does the best at that over any other caliber in the country. So that's why this is a 5.56 build. This is why it's an AR-15 versus being like an MCX or an AK, because of all those logistics things that come into that equation, which is why having the folding adapter is such a big deal for being able to have a compact bag gun that still has a lot of the same similarities and parts as your standard AR-15. So I think that's huge. And then the other thing I want to mention is that this used to have a light on it. So no, I'm not an idiot. I don't have optics and a sling and then no light, right? This did have a light. It will have a light on it again soon. But I will mention really quickly that I used to have, and you'll see this in some of the shooting footage that you might have already seen, but I used to have an in-force light on this build. I think it was somewhere up here or whatever, right? But as you can see, this just isn't quite ready to, even that's not good, that's not, this just isn't on the rifle anymore because it can't be. I will give it credit, it still turns on, so that's great. But yeah, let's just say that we're getting a different light for this build. So yes, it will have a white light soon. But as you can see, the whole concept of this purpose-built bag gun build was lightweight while also still being able to fold up and become very compact, right? And as you can see, it fits in the bag very well, and it does a great job of giving me rifle-capable caliber cartridges in a small package with decent optics that can still allow me to reach out a little further if need be, with the ability to suppress the firearm as well, all in one package, ready to rock with the 10-round magazine inserted into the mag well because it can still fit in the bag like so without impeding with the wall of the bag or making it too big to fit. So this is what I put together. This is what I thought having a bag gun option would look like in the sense of SHTF. Like I said, 5.56 AR-15. Probably the best thing you can put together for SHTF. Yeah, the MCX is amazing. I love it. It's probably a better bag gun at the end of the day. But this, for SHTF, if I had this with me and I ended up not having any of my other guns with me, would still get me a lot more capability in the sense of logistics and teamwork and everything else, right? So, final thoughts on the bag gun. So is having a bag gun a good idea for SHTF? I mean, I think so. Being able to conceal a gun in a bag without bringing a lot of attention to yourself and painting a target on your back seems like a benefit to me. And having that capability of a carbine and a rifle-capable cartridge with you at all times without having to give away what it is that you're concealing is also very beneficial. So if you're worried about trying to figure out a good way to approach that situation that we all talk about here in the community of not painting a target on your back while carrying your AR-15 around in the wasteland, then a bag gun might be a good option for you. If you have any questions about my setup when it comes to the bag gun I showed here in the video, or any questions about the bag like I have on my back right now, let me know in the comments below. If you want any ideas about different optics or different accessories and stuff that work well for these types of build outs, I'm more than happy to entertain that as well. And if you have any questions about Wilson Combat, Sylvan Arms, or Save Your Equipment when it comes to them supporting the channel and sending some of these products over, more than happy to answer those. But I do think a bag gun should be in everybody's arsenal. I think it's something that preppers should definitely consider when it comes to being able to conceal something that they may need somewhere else other than at their home. And I think that we all are on the same page now of knowing that having options is really where it's at. And this gives you a lot of options rather than pigeonholing yourself and only having access to one type of firearm or one type of general purpose rifle that doesn't necessarily allow you to hide it very well if that ever becomes a necessity. And of course, if you're going to use a bag gun in normal times, make sure that you can legally do so. I'm not here to give you legal advice, and I'm not exactly sure what you can or can't do, but I can tell you that where I live, there are some, let's just say, levels of leeway when it comes to what I can carry around in a backpack or not. So I'm just throwing that out there. Know your laws, know your state. And if you have anything else for me at all, go to magicprepper.com, and that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.